The London Design Fair and say it's failing to represent the ethnic diversity.
There is certainly a bit of racism in there, in that I've been told stories by a number of models of black models working with white models, and the white models are being paid and the black models are being asked to work for free. So there are all sorts of issues.
All of which the Mayor has promised to listen to. However,
the signs from City Hall this week are that Boris Johnson's got no intention of getting rid of the £4.2 million grant given by the London Development Agency, but that grant was meant to last 3 years. With Boris Johnson's plans to cut back on the budgets at City Hall, reduce spending, what happens after that is anybody's guess.
Well, with waves of redundancies in the city and London's housing market pretty much closed for business, most Londoners didn't need last week's Treasury paper on the London economy to tell them that things are likely to get a whole lot worse before they begin to improve. So can anything be done to give London a boost? I'm joined by Gavin Hayes, General Secretary of the left-wing movement Compass, and by Baroness Jo Valentine, Chief Executive of the business pressure group London First. Well, you know, there are clearly serious economic problems, and if you talk to Londoners, they're getting very worried about it. I mean, how bad do you think the recession in London is likely to be?
I don't know. Recession is, of course, a technical term. We're certainly seeing a slowdown. I think we may be nearing the bottom, but it's going to go on for another 12 months, I'm sure. Still some rumours coming out around credit crunch. So it's going to be a tough time for the next 12 months.
So, I mean, it is a technical term, obviously, recession. It's 2 periods of negative growth. Will we have those 2 periods of negative growth? Is London nosing into a recession, do you think?
I can't tell you that, but it is going to be tough. We're going to be hovering around recession, so I'm not sure it matters in a sense. It's going to be very tough for the next 12 months.
And what effect is that likely to have on Londoners? How do you think the pain is going to be felt? I mean, clearly we've seen the effect in the mortgage market and therefore in the housing market more generally. But in terms of employment and people's general livelihood, how do you think it'll feed through?
You have a very mixed picture in a way, because of course house prices coming down is not all negative. It does provide opportunities as well. At the moment the housing market is very tough and illiquid, which I think is the problem. I think people should be being very careful about their spending and prepared for the next 12 months to just sort of survive through this period. We've got wonderful things going on in London at the same time. I mean, we're investing in the Olympics, we're investing in Crossrail, investing in the Tube. That provides jobs. There's a huge amount of construction going on, which is jobs.
Gavin, any signs of light in the economic darkness in London?
Well, you know, I think obviously it's a very mixed picture. You know, these are very volatile economic times. No one could have predicted the huge impact that the credit crunch and the problems with the mortgage market in the United States would have, you know, on cities all across the globe. But, you know, it is a mixed picture. You know, we do have positive things happening in London, like the Olympic Games, which will, you know, help the economy in the years ahead. You know, the sort of investments that were made by Ken Livingstone into transport infrastructure over these last few years, that will also help, because, you know, if you want a world-class city in which to do business, you need the transport infrastructure in place to do it, you know, which is why earlier on the programme we were talking about this cross-river tram.
I mean, you know, as Jo said, there are investments being made in the city. Is there anything else, do you think, that the Mayor's office could do to try and, you know, kick-start things in London, keep things going in London?
Well, he has to keep those investments into transport, but also, you know, he needs to look at how he can help people. And, you know, you don't help people in tough economic times by, for example, putting up fares by 10%, you know, to fill a black hole, which, you know, I would argue he has created himself. So, you know, there are things that he can do if he makes the right decisions.
Jo, fare increases, is he unfairly punishing Londoners? Is it a problem of his own making?
I don't think it's a problem of his own making. It certainly inherited a large part of that from Ken. There may have been different things he could have done about transport priorities. He's got to make some very tough decisions, as we were just hearing about transport priorities. It's about balancing the books.
So what can Boris do?
I think
if
the
anything?
best thing that Boris can do is provide the sort of confidence and belief that we will come out the other side of this. We've got to get through the next 12 months, but we are investing in the transport system. We are investing in Olympics. He needs to get the message out that London is open for business. Unfortunately, over the past 12 months, there have been various things which have sort of given the impression...
We've seen a number of FTSE 100 companies saying they're going to relocate, which brings us on to another point. I mean, it's easy for you to take a pop at Boris over this, but the truth is a lot of reasons why big companies want to leave London are more to do with macroeconomic issues like the level of taxation in Britain. These aren't really issues for the Mayor's office, are they, rightly?
Well, there are, as we know, there are things that the Mayor can do. But, you know, as I say, you know, there might be some businesses who are relocating, but still this country, you know, is highly competitive and is a good place in which to do business. But there are things, you know, that the Mayor can do, like, for example, ensuring we've got these investments in transport and sort of helping people through these tough economic times. You know, there are things that the Mayor can do. Ken Livingstone, for example, ensured that there was a living wage in London, for example. That's one example of how you can help people.
I mean, is Boris doing enough, or is this more rightly an issue for central government, would you say, Jo?
Well, London is very exposed to the global economy, so actually I'm not sure there's that much that national government can do in the sense you're talking about. What they absolutely have to do at national level is provide stability of tax policy, stability of economic context and political stability. Now,
are you happy you're getting that from central government at the moment?
Not entirely. I think that they have learnt that the last 12 months has not been wholly positive, and they are now addressing it, which is why they launched this report earlier this week. OK,
thank you very much indeed. And that's all from London this week. Next week we'll be coming live from Manchester, and now it's back to you, John.
Now, time for Politics Max. Scary, where Max Cotton champions your political concerns.
Order.
On a Saturday night in April in 1981, 279 police officers were injured in riots that made Brixton look like a war zone. To cope with some of the causes of the riots, a handful of youth clubs were set up. The one I'd like to show you is here in Kennington, southeast London. It's still going 26 years later, but only just. This is the Ethelred Estate Community Youth Club. As you can see, it's popular. They say that 200 kids a week come here. The club was started by this guy. He's Fred Peters.
Everything okay?
Yes. The place is known simply as Freddy's. They broke the mould when they made Freddy. Have you done a good job here over the last 20 years?
I think I have. I don't have any violent encounter here, knife, guns, drugs. So I must be doing something good.
But Freddy has fallen out with Lambeth Borough Council, who recently withdrew their funding. He refused to sign a contract with the council called a service level agreement. The club sits on prime development land, so Fred feels vulnerable. I'm here to see if the politics show can't pour a little oil on troubled waters. I'm paraphrasing here, but I think Lambeth Borough Council think you're a maverick. And so far, you have refused to sign a service level agreement.
This is all a load of bureaucratic rubbish. From my point of view, we took legal advice. They says to me, you know, it would be a stupid thing to sign this because it needs to be rewritten and arranged.
Do you believe that Lambeth Borough Council want to kick you out of here because they want the land to build on?
Yes. And they can't tell me no difference. All right, Nathan, take one.
Don't know. Can I?
But underlying this conflict is the huge gain that all the kids here seem to get from coming to Freddy's.
Outside of the club, there are dangers and risks. Like you could be robbed or attacked or something. But at least in here, you know you're safe. And Freddy as well, he makes sure you're safe.
Everyone that comes here usually leads on to do something better with their life. They're just not on the roads, you know, they don't go thing. Freddy kind of brings them in under his wing.
It's a place where children can behave like children and they're not thinking about knives, they're not thinking about any problems, they can come and just let off some steam.
People are always looking for someone to blame in politics. And Lambeth Borough Council say categorically that they are not the bad guys in all this. But what seems to be undeniable is that communications between Fred Peters and his youth club and the town hall here are frosty, to put it mildly. To sort this out, will you meet up with Fred and try and reach some kind of consensus, some kind of agreement?
I, as a politician, have to be ensure the broad picture, broad provision of youth services safeguards all children and young people, protects the employees that are employed by them, and protects the organisations that run them, and the taxpayers' money as well. I'm perfectly happy to give a guarantee to sit around the table with senior officers and this group to nut out what it is that they
sort it out.
And sort it out.
This is the nurse centre.
With Fred and me is charities expert Dr. Richard Marsh. Fred needs some advice about fundraising, but he's also going to hear some home truths. Can a group like this get on its own without the council?
This particular group, you're always going to have a working relationship with the council.
You've got to start getting on with the council.
You've got to get on with the council. You are the great ambassador, you're the great selling point for this project, but you're also the founder. And founders have a level of personal and emotional engagement with it. And sometimes you might have to put that aside a little bit.
The Politics Show has arranged a special meeting between the club and the council. It's a fresh start to negotiate a brighter future. Lambeth want Fred to be constructive and cooperative. Characteristically, Fred tells me he wants them to walk a mile in his shoes.
You're not watching the wrist. Don't forget the wrist.
And if you need Max's help, well, go to our website and the address there and all the needs you need to know. Now, the return to Westminster isn't going that well for the Prime Minister, but did he have a good break? Well, our cartoonist Gary Barker, with vocal assistance from comedian John Coleshaw, brings you What I Did on My Summer Holidays by Gordon Brown.
This summer, I took the decision to go on holiday to the seaside. I thought it might be prudent to take my bucket and spade and swimsuit. However, it rained every day. People were predominantly grumpy, even though I pointed out the very real situation that the bad weather is due to the world climate and not singularly a British problem. Each morning, before the breakfast period, I took the decision to run around the park with Millie, my new friend. It must be said my school shorts are now markedly baggy around the middle. Since becoming the head boy, with the late-night working and midnight snacks, deep responsibility of government, yada yada, I have become arguably more out of shape than was previously noted. And I must point out, it was easier being the deputy, and I got better marks in class then. Nasty, naughty David Miliband and his gang, the Primrose Hill Heavies, have attempted to engage me in fisticuffs. However, thanks to all of my running that was undertaken with Millie, I was enabled to get away. My pal, Edward B., says that they are crazy, destructive and divisive. I think they are simply envious that I am head boy, and this has been pointed out, as well as the fact that David Miliband, in my opinion, believes he could do better. I thought at least my best chum Alistair would be on my side, but I don't think he wants to be friends anymore. He said people didn't like me or any of the prefects. He even used a naughty and rude word. And then he said the school exam results are the worst they've been for 60 years. Nonsense. At the conclusion of the holidays, I took the decision to get a special present for everyone, as in my belief I thought it would cheer them up after all of the dreary and frankly not very good weather that we have had. I'm not too sure they like it very much. It still hasn't stopped raining.
And next Sunday, we'll be coming live from the Labour Party conference in Manchester. We'll have a panel of politicians, including the former Deputy Leader, John Prescott, and the former Home Secretary, Charles Clarke. Now, if you'd like to be part of the live studio audience, do visit our website and you can apply from there. See you next week in Manchester. Goodbye.